It was a big day for humans, not because of some new invention or discovery on Earth. No, this time, they were finally being taken seriously by the rest of the galaxy. For years, humans had been expanding quietly into space. They started with the Moon, then Mars, then the asteroid belt. Slowly but surely, they built stations, ships, and colonies beyond their own solar system. But even though they were growing fast, nobody else really noticed them, at least not at first. The other species didn't think much of humans. They were loud, messy, and seemed to break every rule of polite galactic behavior. Worse, they didn't seem to care. Humans talked too much, laughed too loud, and dressed like something that didn't belong anywhere near an interstellar meeting hall. So when the Galactic Council finally decided to invite humanity to join the greater galactic community, many alien leaders did so more out of curiosity than respect. Among the most skeptical were the Zalari, tall, silver-skinned beings who believed elegance and order were the highest forms of civilization. Then there were the Threxians, massive, insect-like creatures who valued strength and efficiency above all else, and the Virex, floating jellyfish-like beings who communicated through bioluminescent pulses and found human speech primitive and chaotic. To these races, humans were strange, unrefined, and far too emotional. They laughed at everything. Even during serious talks, humans would crack jokes, smile at insults, and shrug off things that would make other species go to war. But what really made humans the laughingstock of the galaxy? Their battle armor. Yes, of all the things they brought to the table, their wild ideas, their unpredictable diplomacy, their noisy music, it was their armor that got the most attention. Or, more accurately, ridicule. No one could understand how humans designed their gear. It looked like someone had taken random parts from construction equipment, old sports gear and children's toys, slapped them together with duct tape and called it a day. Bright colors. Flashing lights, odd shapes. Some suits even had cup holders. And yet, despite the mockery, humans kept wearing them. Proudly. One such soldier was Logan Bryant. Logan wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, he wasn't even the best fighter in his unit. But he was tough, stubborn, and used to being underestimated. He stood just under 6 feet tall with short brown hair and tired eyes. He came from a small town in Colorado where winters were harsh and summers were full of work. His parents ran a hardware store, and he grew up fixing cars, bikes, and anything else that broke down. When the military started recruiting for space service, Logan signed up without hesitation. He liked the idea of going somewhere new, of doing something bigger than himself. Now, he was part of a special human delegation invited to take part in a joint military exercise with other species. The goal? To test whether humans were ready, to be trusted as allies, or if they were still just a joke. Logan didn't mind being laughed at. He'd grown used to it. What mattered was getting the job done. Still, as he stepped onto the training field on the planet Virex Prime, he knew today wouldn't be easy. Around him, soldiers from different species stood in neat lines. Their armor gleamed under the artificial suns. Each suit was sleek, elegant, and clearly built with purpose. The Zalari wore flowing lightweight exosuits that moved with perfect precision. The Threxians had thick, chitinous armor that looked like it could survive a direct plasma hit. The Virex floated inside glowing bubbles, protected by energy fields that pulsed softly. Then there was Logan. His suit was bright neon green, with oversized shoulder pads that looked like they belonged on a football player. His helmet had blinking hazard lights on top, and the chest plate was covered in patches, stickers, and hand-painted slogans like "Don't Panic" and "Built to Last." Underneath, the armor was strong, stronger than anyone realized. But no one was looking at strength right now. All they saw was the style, or lack of it. A few Zalari officers whispered among themselves, trying not to laugh. A Threxian grunt snorted loudly and muttered something about construction workers. One of the Virex flashed red and yellow, lights which probably meant confusion or disgust. Even the human commander standing nearby shook his head. "Bryant," he said, voice low, "you know you can wear the standard issue armor, right?" Logan shrugged. "I like mine better. It looks like a toy." "That's the point." The commander sighed and walked away. Moments later, the drill began. Soldiers from each species lined up in teams. The goal was to navigate a simulated battlefield, complete objectives, avoid enemy fire, and reach the extraction zone. Most of the other teams moved quickly, silently, with practiced coordination. They looked like warriors. Human team number 4, led by Logan, looked like clowns. They wore mismatched armor. Some had glowing stripes. Others had homemade upgrades, like extra pouches, reinforced knees, or even mini fans to keep cool. As they moved forward, the other teams smirked. This was going to be easy. But Logan and his squad had something the others didn't. Experience. They weren't just soldiers. They were tinkerers, builders, and problem solvers. Every patch, every odd-looking piece of armor had a reason behind it. The blinking lights, motion detectors. When enemies approached from behind, the lights changed color. The oversized shoulder pads, modular storage units. They held tools, batteries, medkits, and sometimes even snacks. The weird paint job, designed to confuse alien vision spectrums. Most species couldn't track the humans properly because their colors didn't match any known camouflage patterns. And the helmets? Inside those goofy visors were thermal imaging, AI targeting systems, and translation software that let humans understand over 50 languages in real time. Nobody expected the humans to do well. Everyone thought this was just another chance to mock them. But halfway through the exercise, things started changing. The human team moved faster than expected. They avoided traps. They hacked enemy drones with jury-rigged tech. They adapted instantly when plans failed. Logan led them like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. By the time the exercise ended, the human team had completed the mission with 0 casualties. They reached the extraction zone before everyone else. Silence fell over the field. The other teams stared. Some looked confused. Others looked angry. One Zalari officer turned to a colleague and asked, "How did they do that?" No one had an answer. Logan removed his helmet, wiped sweat from his brow, and smiled. Behind him, Danny Cruz, a wiry explosives expert with a love for hot sauce, gave a thumbs up. Maggie Carter, the team sniper, leaned back against a rock and said, "Looks like we made the list again." "The what list?" asked a young recruit. "The humans are weird but good list," she replied. Across the field, the commanders gathered to review the footage. They watched how the human team had used every part of their armor to their advantage, how they moved like a machine but never stopped smiling, how they worked together like a family, not just soldiers, and how, despite the laughter and the jokes, they always got the job done. Later that night, a video clip went viral across the galaxy. It showed Logan walking off the field, his armor still blinking, a grin on his face. Someone added subtitles, "The most ridiculous armor humans ever wore, and why it works." The exercise was over, but the questions had just begun. Commanders from every species gathered in a large briefing room on Virex Prime. The walls were made of smooth metal and glowing panels. Holograms floated in the air, showing clips from the battlefield. Every team's performance was being reviewed. Every move, every decision, every success or failure. But all eyes were on the footage of Human Team 4. They moved differently. Not like warriors trained for war, but more like workers fixing something broken. They didn't follow strict orders like the Zalari. They didn't charge forward blindly like the Threxians. And they didn't float silently like the Virex. Instead, they talked, laughed, changed plans mid-mission, used tools no one else even brought to the field. And somehow they finished first with 0 injuries. It didn't make sense. A Zalari commander named Vrel Takas stood at the front of the room. He was tall, with smooth silver skin and cold, sharp eyes. His voice was calm, but his tone showed frustration. "This is not possible," he said. "Their armor looks like it belongs on a child's toy. Their tactics are chaotic. unpredictable. And yet, they won. No one answered at first. Then a Threxian officer, Gorlak, leaned forward. His insect-like face clicked as he spoke. They must have cheated, he growled. No soldier wins without discipline, no army wins without order. Across the room, a human officer, Seone. Captain Elena Wardown smiled politely. I can assure you, she said, they didn't cheat. They followed every rule, just differently. Vrel looked confused. Differently? Elena nodded. Humans don't see rules as limits. They see them as guidelines, suggestions. If something isn't working, they change it. That's how they fight. That's how they live. There was silence again. Then Gorlak snorted. That's not fighting. That's madness. No, Elena said. That's innovation. Later that day, Logan Bryant sat in a small mess hall near the training grounds. He wasn't alone. Across the table were two of his teammates, Danny Cruz and Maggie Carter. Danny was short and wiry, with wild black hair and a permanent grin. He loved explosives more than anything else in the universe. Maggie was taller, with short blonde hair and sharp green eyes. She was the team sniper, and she never missed. They were eating lunch, freeze-dried mashed potatoes, rehydrated meat, and something that was supposed to be coffee. Logan took a bite and made a face. This tastes like old socks soaked in radiator fluid. Maggie laughed. You say that every time. Danny grinned. I think it's better than last week's mystery stew. They ate in silence for a while. Then Maggie asked, So what do you think's gonna happen now? Logan shrugged. Dunno. Probably more meetings, more questions. We're the new shiny thing in the galaxy. Maggie nodded. Yeah, the weird guys who wear stupid armor and win anyway. Danny smirked. Hey, I helped build this suit. It's not stupid, it's genius. Genius? Maggie raised an eyebrow. You added a cup holder. So I can drink my soda while blowing stuff up. Danny said proudly. Maggie rolled her eyes. Of course. Just then, a voice came through the speakers. All members of Human Team 4, please report to Command Hall B for debriefing. Logan sighed. Showtime. In Command Hall B, the commanders were still watching footage. One clip played over, and over, the moment Human Team 4 split up to flank the enemy. While other teams stuck together, the humans broke into smaller groups. Some went high, some went low. One even climbed onto a rooftop and started hacking a drone. The alien commanders watched in disbelief. That's not a formation, Vrel muttered. That's chaos. It worked, though, Elena pointed out. They neutralized 3 enemy squads in under 5 minutes. How? Gorlak demanded. How did they move so fast? How did they know where to go? Elena smiled again. Because they trust each other, and because their gear lets them adapt. She turned to a technician. Play the helmet feed. The hologram changed. Now it showed the battlefield from Logan's point of view. Everyone could see through his visor. The display inside the helmet was full of data, enemy positions, heat signatures, movement patterns, and real-time translation of enemy chatter. What is that? Vrel asked. That's our helmet system, Elena explained. Thermal vision targeting assist AI guidance. All built by our engineers. Most of it's cobbled together from parts we found lying around. Gorlak frowned. You built weapons, systems from trash? We call it improvisation, Elena said. We take what we have and make it work. Another clip played. Danny planting a homemade explosive on a wall. It looked like a regular grenade, but when it exploded, it sent out a pulse that disabled nearby enemy tech. That's not standard issue, Vrel said. Nope, Elena admitted. Danny built it himself. From scrap. Gorlak stared. He built a weapon out of junk? Elena nodded. Welcome to human engineering. Back outside, Logan, Danny, and Maggie walked toward another training field. They were told they'd be doing a second test, this time against a combined force of Zilari, Threxian, and Virex soldiers. Logan cracked his neck. So, same mission. Different enemies. Should be fun. Maggie smirked. Should be easy. Danny grinned. I've been waiting for this. As they stepped onto the field, the other teams were already there. This time, they weren't laughing. The Zalari soldiers stood in neat rows, their armor gleaming. The Threxians lined up like living tanks. The Virex floated silently above the ground. Human Team 4 looked, well, like usual. Bright colors, blinking lights, odd shapes. A few even had stickers that said things like, "Don't panic," and "Made in Earth." Some of the alien soldiers exchanged glances. Others whispered among themselves. Then the exercise began. The battlefield lit up with simulated fire. Explosions echoed across the terrain. Drones buzzed overhead. Smoke filled the air. And once again, the humans surprised everyone. They moved fast. They communicated clearly. They used every part of their gear to its fullest. Logan led the way, ducking behind cover, calling out directions and keeping the team moving. Danny set traps. Maggie picked off enemies from a distance. Other team members hacked enemy systems, created distractions, and used their suit's modular design to switch tools mid-battle. At one point, Logan ran up a wall, grabbed a drone, and tossed it like a football. It landed right in the middle of a group of Zalari soldiers. When it exploded, it released a cloud of glitter. Not deadly, but annoying as hell. The Zalari tried to wipe it off their armor, only to discover it was magnetic. It stuck to everything. Laughter burst from the human comms. "Sorry, boys," Logan said over the radio. "Didn't mean to blind you with sparkles." Meanwhile, Maggie spotted a Threxian squad trying to flank them. She tapped her visor, switched to thermal mode, and locked onto the lead enemy. Ping. Her rifle fired automatically, guided by the AI. The shot hit dead center. The Threxian fell. His squad froze. "You saw that too, right?" one of them asked. "Yeah," the leader growled. "That little red dot doesn't miss." Back at command, the alien officers watched everything unfold. "This is impossible," Vrel said again. "No," Elena replied. "It's just different." Gorlak clenched his fists. "They're mocking us." "They're winning," Elena corrected. By the end of the exercise, the humans had completed the mission again. Faster this time, with fewer resources, and 0 casualties. Silence filled the command room. The footage looped again and again. The humans always seemed to be one step ahead, always adapting, always smiling. Finally, Vrel turned to Elena. "I want answers," he said. "Now." Elena nodded. "You'll get them, but you might not like what you hear." Outside, Logan removed his helmet and took a deep breath. Danny slapped him on the back. "We crushed it." Maggie gave a tired smile. "Same time tomorrow?" Logan chuckled. "Only if they let us bring tacos." As they walked away, the message spread across the Galactic network. Another video clip was uploaded. Title: "Humans Strike Again," and they're still wearing clown suits. Views, millions. Likes, even more. Comments: "How are they so good? I thought they were a joke, but now I'm scared. Please send help before they start building spaceships with duct tape." And somewhere in the corner of the internet, a meme appeared. It showed Logan covered in glitter holding a blinking helmet. Text: "The most ridiculous armor humans ever wore, and why it works." The meeting room was big, cold, and full of important people. It was on Virex Prime, a planet known for its smooth metal floors, glowing walls, and floating jellyfish-like aliens who never seemed to blink. The air smelled like ozone and old coffee. At the center of the room sat a long table made of dark stone. Around it were leaders from different species: Zalari, Threxians, Virex, and now humans. On one side were the alien commanders. Vrel Takas, the tall, silver-skinned Zalari with sharp eyes and sharper opinions. Gorlak, the thick-chested Threxian with mandibles that clicked when he got angry. And Lumea, a glowing Virex who communicated through color pulses. On the other side sat the human delegation: Captain Elena Ward, calm and confident. She had seen this kind of thing before. Logan Bryant, still wearing his weird-looking armor with blinking lights and stickers, and a few engineers and tech experts who helped build the gear. Everyone stared at Logan. He sat quietly, hands on the table, waiting. Vrel finally spoke. "You will explain." Logan blinked. "Explain what?" Vrel's voice was low but firm. "How your armor works, why it looks like it does, and how you keep winning." There was silence. Then Gorlak leaned forward. "We watched the footage. Your team moves like animals with tools. You don't follow any rules, you don't fight like soldiers. And yet, you win." Logan shrugged. "Yeah, that's kinda how we do things." Vrel frowned. "That is not an answer." Elena smiled. Politely. "Let him talk." She turned to Logan. "Go ahead." Logan took a deep breath. Then he stood up and walked over to a display panel. He tapped it, and a hologram appeared. It showed a human soldier in full battle gear. The same bright colors, the blinking lights, the oversized pads, but now parts of the suit lit up as labels appeared. "This," Logan said, pointing, "isn't just armor. It's a system. A whole bunch of little systems all working together." He looked around the room. "So let me show you why it works. Why it looks stupid, but isn't." "First off," Logan said, "we know our armor looks dumb. A few aliens gave dry looks. I mean, I get it," he continued. "From your point of view, we look like clowns in a war zone. But that's kind of the point." Vrel narrowed his eyes. "You wear ugly armor. On purpose?" "Not ugly," Logan corrected. "Different. Confusing." He tapped the display again. This time, it showed how different species saw the world. Zalari had perfect vision, seeing every detail clearly. Threxians could detect heat and movement. Virex used bioluminescence and pulses of light. Humans, not so great. "We don't have the best senses," Logan admitted. "We can't see as far, we can't hear as well. Our skin burns easy, so we built gear that helps us out." He pointed at the neon green color. "This isn't just paint. It's designed to mess with alien vision. Most of you see in different wavelengths than we do. This color doesn't match anything in your natural world, so it's hard to track." Lumea pulsed red and blue. "That probably meant confusion." Logan nodded. "I know, sounds silly, but try looking at it through your own eyes." The display changed. Again. Now it showed how the suit looked to each species. To the Zalari, it flickered like broken light. To the Threxians, it blended into the background like heat haze. And to the Virex, it looked like static noise, like bad TV reception. Gorlak muttered something under his breath. Logan grinned. "See what I mean? To you we're ghosts, flickering, disappearing, hard to hit." Vrel crossed his arms. "Clever, but not enough. To win battles." Logan nodded. "Yeah, that's why we added more stuff. War, what's inside the suit?" He moved on. "The next part is what makes this suit special. It's not just protection, it's tools." He tapped the shoulder pad. "These aren't just for show, they're modular. You can attach different things. Flashlights, extra batteries, med kits, even snacks." Danny Cruz, one of the engineers, raised his hand. "I added the snack pouches." Gorlak looked disgusted. "You carry food into battle?" Danny shrugged. "We get hungry, better, to eat during a break than die distracted." Vrel ignored him and pointed at the helmet. "And this?" Logan picked it up. "This is the smartest part. It's got thermal vision, targeting assist, AI guidance, translation software, and comms that work across 50 languages." He tapped the visor. Most of this tech was junk once. Old satellite parts, broken drones, recycled phones. We just glued it all together and made it work. Lumea pulsed yellow. That was probably surprise. "You built this from trash?" Vrel asked. "Not trash," Danny said proudly. "Potential." Vrel sighed. "Continue." Logan held up a small box attached to the belt. "This is the power core. It's not fancy, but it runs everything. Armor functions, sensors, lights, even the fan inside. He smirked. Yes, there's a fan. Keeps us cool. We sweat a lot, Gorlak growled. You fight in climate-controlled suits? Logan nodded. Wouldn't you? On the blinking lights. They're not just for fun. Then Logan pointed at the blinking hazard lights on top of the helmet. This part gets laughed at the most, he said. People think it's stupid, flashy, pointless. Vrel raised an eyebrow. Isn't it? Nope, Logan said. It's motion detection. When enemies get close from behind, these lights change color. He tapped the display again. Now it showed a simulation. In the video, a Zalari soldier tried to sneak up behind a human. As he got closer, the lights on the helmet turned red. The human spun around and fired. The Zalari dodged, but barely. Logan smiled. No more sneaking up on us. Vrel looked impressed despite himself. And here's another trick, Logan said. The lights are also countermeasures. If someone tries to scan us or lock onto us with targeting systems, the lights pulse in a way that confuses their tech. Danny grinned. Like throwing sand in a robot's eye. Gorlak looked annoyed. You fight with tricks. Logan nodded. We do. Because we're not the strongest, we're not the fastest, but we adapt. Fast. The real secret. It's not the armor. Vrel leaned back in his chair. All of this, it's clever, but it still doesn't explain how you win every time. Logan smiled. Because it's not just the armor. He looked around the room. You guys train for war, you follow strict rules, you stick to plans. That's good. But sometimes, plans fail. He paused. We don't rely on plans. We rely on each other. He tapped the display again. This time it showed footage of his team during the last exercise. Maggie Carter sniping from a rooftop. Danny setting traps. Another soldier hacking enemy drones. They don't just follow orders, Logan said. They think. Every single one of them. We're not just soldiers, we're problem solvers. He looked at Vrel. Your soldiers are strong. Your tech is clean. But if something goes wrong, they stop. Wait for new orders. Or charge blindly. He pointed at the screen. We keep moving. We change tactics mid-battle. We use whatever's around us. That's how we win. Silence filled the room. Finally, Lumea pulsed slowly, green then blue. That was respect. Vrel rubbed his chin. So you admit your armor is strange? Logan nodded. Oh yeah. It's weird. Loud. Messy. But it works because it's made for real fights. Not perfect ones. He smiled. We build stuff that doesn't look like it should work. Because nobody expects it to. Outside, the message spread quickly. Another video clip was uploaded across the Galactic network. Title: Humans explain why their clown armor wins every time. Views millions, likes even more. Comments why they're not dumb, they're genius. I thought they were making it up, but nope, they actually built weapons from trash. Please tell me they're not building spaceships next, and somewhere in the corner of the internet a new meme appeared. It showed Logan standing in front of the alien council, holding his blinking helmet. Text: The most ridiculous armor humans ever wore, and why it works. After the big meeting, everything changed. Not right away. Not with fireworks or battles or speeches, but slowly, like water finding cracks in stone. The video of Logan explaining how human armor worked spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Millions watched it, billions shared it. Some laughed, some were confused. Others, they started paying attention. Soon more than just soldiers and engineers were watching, politicians, scientists, even regular people wanted to know, why did this weird-looking gear work so well? And more importantly, could they copy it? Imitation is the sincerest form of confusion. On the planet Zealer Prime, a group of high-ranking officers gathered in a sleek white room. The walls were made of polished metal that reflected every movement like a mirror. At the center of the room stood Commander Vrel Takas, still wearing his elegant silver armor. Beside him was Engineer Zell Wren, one of the top tech minds of the Zalari race. In front of them stood a new suit of armor. It looked almost like human armor. Bright colors, blinking lights, weird shapes. But something was off. The lights blinked too fast. The colors didn't match any known camouflage pattern. And the suit didn't move smoothly. It creaked when the test soldier walked. Vrel frowned. Explain. Zellren bowed slightly. We have studied the human design. We have replicated their materials and layout as closely as possible. Vrel narrowed his eyes. Then why does it not work? Zellren hesitated. Because we do not understand why they built it that way. Vrel sighed. They told us during the meeting. Yes, Zellren said carefully. But understanding the reasons is not the same as understanding the thinking behind them. Vrel crossed his arms. You mean you copied the look, but missed the point? Zellren nodded. Yes. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On Threxian battlefields, warriors tried to wear suits that mimicked the humans' modular design. But instead of adapting tools mid-battle, they stuck to old ways. Their armor looked strange and bulky. On Virex Prime, scientists tried to study the blinking lights on human helmets. They assumed it was for decoration, so they added even more lights. Now their own soldiers looked like floating disco balls. No one could quite get it right, because they were trying to copy the look, not the idea. Logan gets a new job. Back on Earth, Logan Bryant wasn't expecting much to change after the meeting. He figured he'd go back to training, maybe get sent on another mission, and life would keep going like normal. But then came the call. You've been reassigned, Captain Elena Ward told him. To where? Logan asked. To Project Chaos. Logan blinked. What's that? Elena smiled. It's your job now, helping other species build better armor. Logan stared at her. Wait, I'm not an engineer. No, she said, but you're the guy who wears the armor. You know what works and what doesn't. So Logan found himself on a new space station orbiting a small moon near the border of human-controlled space. There, teams of alien and human engineers worked side by side. They called it the Galactic Armor Exchange Program. Its goal? To help other species learn from human designs without making the same mistakes. Logan wasn't the boss. He wasn't even in charge. But he was there to give feedback. To say the least, it was a mess. Culture. Clash. The first day was rough. Logan walked into a lab filled with glowing panels, floating blueprints, and engineers arguing in 5 different languages. One corner had a group of Zalari designers trying to make a version of the human helmet, but without the blinking lights. We find them distracting, one explained. They warn you when enemies are behind you, Logan said. The Zalari frowned. That seems undignified. Nearby, a Threxian team was testing a new suit based on human design. It was thick, heavy, and covered in sharp edges. Logan looked at it. That looks uncomfortable. A Threxian officer growled. It is strong. Logan tapped the chest plate. Yeah, but if you can't move, strength doesn't matter. The Threxian grumbled but said nothing. Then there was the Virex team. Their version of human armor didn't even touch the ground. It floated like a bubble. Logan raised an eyebrow. How do you walk in that? A Virex scientist pulsed green. We do not walk. We float. Logan shrugged. Fair enough. By the end of the day, Logan was exhausted. He sat down with Danny, Cruz, and Maggie Carter, both of whom had been pulled into the project. Danny looked at a pile of failed prototypes. This is worse than building stuff out of junk. Maggie leaned back. They don't get it. They think it's about copying. But it's about thinking differently. Logan nodded. Yeah, and that's hard when you've always done things one way. You are. The cup holder incident. One afternoon, the team tried to explain the idea of modular design. They showed the aliens how each part of the human suit could be swapped or upgraded depending on the mission. Danny held up a simple tool pouch. See this? It clips on and off. You can carry extra ammo, medkits, and snacks, whatever you need. Gorlak, the Threxian commander, looked unimpressed. Snacks? Danny grinned. Hey, if you're going to fight all day, might as well eat. Later, someone decided to test the idea. A Zalari engineer named Arjorek built a modified belt attachment for carrying tools. Then Danny added something else, a cup holder. Just a small, plastic ring attached to the hip plate. Everyone stopped talking. Vrel looked at it like it had insulted him personally. This is absurd, he said. Danny shrugged. You can drink while moving, keeps you hydrated. Jorek looked at the cup holder, then at Danny. You fight with drinks? Danny nodded. Sometimes soda, sometimes coffee. Once I used motor oil by mistake. That was bad. The room fell silent. Finally, Lumea, the Virex observer, pulsed yellow and red. Laughter. Even Vrel gave a dry chuckle. It may be foolish, he admitted, but it is also practical. From that moment on, the term, or the cup holder rule, became part of the project. It meant, if it helps the soldier stay focused, comfortable, and alive, even if it looks silly, then it belongs. More than just gear. As the weeks went by, something started to shift. At first, the alien teams were stiff and formal. They followed rules strictly. They treated the human gear like a puzzle to solve. But slowly they began to experiment. Zalari engineers started adding small tools to their suits, tiny scanners, repair kits, and even emergency rations. Threxians tried lighter versions of their armor, inspired by human mobility. And the Virex, who once refused to use anything physical, started designing floating packs that carried supplies. They weren't copying anymore. They were learning. And Logan noticed. One day, he walked into the lab and saw a young Zalari engineer adjusting a helmet display. He recognized her from earlier meetings. She used to hate the blinking lights. Now she was adding her own version of motion detection. Logan smiled. Didn't think you liked those. She looked up. I didn't, but now I see why they work. He nodded. Good. That's the point. Outside, the message kept spreading. Another video clip was uploaded across the Galactic network. Title: Aliens try to copy human armor. Some actually get it right. Views: millions. Likes: even more. Comments: they're starting to get it. Still looks dumb, but at least now it works. I want a cup holder on my suit. And somewhere in the corner of the internet, a new meme appeared. It showed Jorek holding a cup of tea in a floating armor suit. Text: the most ridiculous armor humans ever wore, and why it works. It started with a video, a short clip only a few seconds long. It showed a group of rebels fighting on a dusty planet far from any major space lanes. Their enemies were heavily armed, armored, and backed by a powerful empire. But the rebels had something unexpected: human-made armor, bright colors, blinking lights, weird shapes, and they moved like ghosts. One moment they were there, the next gone. They hacked enemy drones with jury-rigged tech, set traps with homemade explosives, sniped from impossible angles, and when the fight was over, they walked away, no injuries, no losses, just victory. The video spread fast, across planets, across networks, across species. People watched, and then they asked one question: where did they get that gear? Rebels with a cause and a style. The rebels called themselves the Free Stars. They weren't part of any official army. They weren't backed by any government. They were just a small group of fighters who wanted to be free. Most of them came from poor colonies, places forgotten by the big powers. They didn't have fancy weapons or sleek ships. What they did have was access to human tech, not through war, not through theft, through trade. Logan Bryant's team had made sure of that. Back at the Galactic Armor Exchange program, they had set up an open-source database. It listed how to build parts of their armor using common materials, It included blueprints, instructions, and even tips for fixing broken parts with everyday tools. It wasn't meant for war. It was meant for survival. But in the wrong or right hands, it became both. The Freestars found the database online. They downloaded what they could. Then they started building. They used scrap metal, old machinery, and whatever else they could find. They didn't copy the suits exactly. They adapted them. Soon they were winning battles no one thought they could. They hit supply lines, freed prisoners, sabotaged enemy bases, and every time they wore the same weird-looking armor. Bright green, blinking lights, cup holders. It became their symbol, not just of rebellion, but of hope. Because if a ragtag group of outcasts could take down Imperial forces with nothing but junkyard tech and human ideas, then maybe anyone could. The Empire strikes back with rules. Of course, the Empire noticed, and they didn't like it. To them, the Freestars weren't just rebels, they were a threat to order. Their use of chaotic technology broke the rules of warfare. No sleek design, no clean lines. No respect for tradition, just messy, unpredictable, annoyingly effective gear. So the Empire issued a new decree. All unauthorized use of unregulated battle armor is hereby banned. Possession of such technology will result in immediate confiscation and imprisonment. That didn't stop people. If anything, it made more of them want it. Black markets opened. Secret workshops popped up. Smugglers carried suit parts between systems. And the memes kept coming. Memes that fight back. Across the galaxy, humans became more than soldiers. They became culture. Everywhere you looked, someone was making fun of them or copying them. A popular cartoon show appeared, Space Logan, Hero of Earth. It followed a brave, slightly clueless hero who flew around in a neon green suit, fought aliens with duct tape, and always said, "Don't panic." Kids loved it. Parents rolled their eyes. Alien leaders watched it in confusion. Another meme went viral. A picture of Logan wearing his blinking helmet, standing in front of a burning battlefield. Text: the most ridiculous armor humans ever wore, and why it works. It got shared millions of times. Some versions had captions like, "We tried to stop them. Now we all wear cup holders. They built it out of trash and beat us anyway. Why do we keep losing to guys who look like construction workers?" Even Gorlak saw it. He growled, then he laughed. Logan becomes a star, whether he likes it or not. Back at the armor exchange program, Logan was trying to work, but everywhere he went, people stared. Some waved, some saluted, others just pointed and whispered. He didn't like it. "I didn't ask for this," he told Danny one day. Danny grinned. "You kinda did." "How?" "You made cool stuff. People liked it. Now they want to be like you." Logan groaned. "I don't want to be famous." "Well," Danny said, "you are." Soon after, a message arrived from the Human Defense Council. "Due to growing interest in human-designed armor, you are being reassigned to assist in training allied forces." Logan read it twice. Then he sighed. "Great. I'm a teacher now." Elena Ward smiled. "Think of it as spreading the gospel of duct tape." Training the galaxy. Logan's new job took him across the stars. First stop, Zealer Prime. There, Zalari engineers were still struggling with human designs. They had built a version of the blinking helmet, but removed the blinking. Logan looked at it and frowned. "Why'd you take out the motion detection?" One engineer shrugged. "We found it undignified." Logan gave them a blank stare. "You're fighting a war. Who cares if it looks cool?" Next stop, Threxian territory. Threxians had built heavier versions of human armor, stronger but slower. Logan ran through a test mission with them. Halfway through, they couldn't move fast enough to avoid enemy fire. Afterward, he sat with Gorlak. "You can't just make it stronger," Logan said. "You have to make it smart." Gorlak grumbled. "Smart doesn't win wars." "No," Logan agreed. "But smart wins fights." Finally, he visited Virex Prime. There, the Virex had built floating armor suits inspired by human designs. They worked well until it rained. Then the circuits shorted. Logan helped them fix it by adding waterproof coatings and simpler power sources. By the end of the trip, he was tired. But he was also proud. Because slowly, piece by piece, the galaxy was learning not just how to build human armor, but how to think like humans. A new kind of war. Back on Earth, things were changing too. More and more alien species were asking for help with armor design. Some wanted to join the exchange program. Others wanted to hire human engineers. And some just wanted to understand how humans kept doing the impossible. Meanwhile, the Free Stars kept winning battles. They had grown from a small rebel group into a full movement. Other rebel factions joined them. Pirates, mercenaries, even defectors from imperial armies, and they all wore human-inspired armor. Bright, loud, ridiculous, but deadly. In secret meetings, Empire generals argued. "We must stop this madness," one said. "But how?" another asked. "They are not just using better gear. They are using new ideas." Silence. Then one general muttered, "Maybe we should learn from them instead of fighting them." Everyone turned to look. He shrugged. "They've already won half the war. Maybe we should start listening." Outside, the message spread again. Another video clip uploaded across the galactic network. Title: Humans teach aliens how to build stupid-looking armor that wins every time. Views: millions, likes, even more. Comments: "This is wild. I thought they were a joke, but now I'm scared. Please send help before they start building spaceships with duct tape." And somewhere in the corner of the internet, a new meme appeared. It showed Logan standing in front of a classroom of confused aliens. Text: "The most ridiculous armor humans ever wore and why it works." The war was going badly, not for the humans, but for the Empire. What had started as a small rebellion on the edge of known space had grown into something bigger. The Free Stars were no longer just rebels. They were now a symbol, a movement, and they were winning. All across the galaxy, more groups were rising up. Fighters who had once been ignored or oppressed were taking back their homes, and every one of them wore the same kind of gear: bright colors, blinking lights, weird shapes, human-style armor. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about change. The final mission. Logan Bryant stood at the edge of a battlefield he never thought he'd see, a planet called Corvax 9. Deep inside enemy space. Smoke filled the sky. Fires burned across the broken land. Ships circled overhead like birds of prey. This was it, the biggest fight yet. The Empire had gathered its strongest forces here. Heavy tanks, armored troops, drones that could track heat, sound, even thoughts. They weren't going to lose. Not this. But the Free Stars had come prepared, so had Logan. He looked down at his suit, still bright green, still blinking, still covered in stickers. One said, "Don't panic." Another, "Built to last." And one new one, added by Danny, "This is not a toy." He smiled, because it wasn't. Team 4 returns. Behind him, the rest of Human Team 4 waited. Maggie Carter crouched behind cover, checking her rifle. Her visor glowed with targeting data. Danny Cruz knelt beside a pile of explosives, muttering to himself as he wired a trap. Other soldiers, humans and aliens alike, moved into position. They all wore different versions of the human-designed armor. Some looked sleek, some looked wild, but they all worked. Logan tapped his helmet comms. "All units check in." Over the radio came voices from across the battlefield. "Team Alpha, ready. Team Bravo, set. Team Delta, locked in." Then, Maggie's voice, "Sniper ready. Eyes on target." Danny chimed in. "Booby trap set, let's make 'em cry." Logan grinned. "Good. Let's do this." Chaos Protocol activated. The plan was simple: distract, confuse, adapt. That was what humans did best. The first Amba wave hit hard. Imperial forces charged forward expecting an easy fight. They didn't get one. As soon as they entered the battlefield, traps went off. Explosives hidden under fake paths. Drones hacked midair. Lights flashed in confusing patterns. One moment, a soldier would see a group of rebels ahead. The next, gone, vanished, like ghosts. Some suits blended into the background. Others moved too fast to follow. Some even used sound tricks to confuse enemy. Sensors. The Empire had trained for years to fight clean, orderly wars. But this was chaos, and chaos worked. Why it works. Back at Command Base, Elena Ward watched the battle unfold on a large screen. Beside her stood Vrel Takas, the Zalari commander who had once laughed at human armor. Now he watched in silence. Finally, he spoke. "I understand now," he said. Elena looked at him. Vrel continued, "I thought strength won battles, or skill, or strategy. But you win because you think differently." Elena nodded. "We don't build gear that looks perfect. We build gear that works when nothing else does." Vrel looked at the screen again. On it, a rebel squad was moving fast through enemy lines. Their armor blinked wildly. One even had a cup holder. And still they were winning. Vrel sighed. "You don't follow rules," he said. "You break them, and somehow it makes you stronger." Elena smiled. "That's what being human means." The turning point. Midway through the battle, things got worse. The Empire sent in their elite unit. Heavy armor, powerful weapons, perfect formation. They pushed forward, cutting through everything in their path. The Free Stars started to fall back, then Logan made a call. "Time for Chaos Protocol." Danny grinned. Finally, he tapped his belt. A signal went out. Suddenly, the battlefield changed. Lights flashed in strange patterns. Sounds echoed in weird directions. Smoke filled the air. The enemy couldn't tell where the attacks were coming from because there were no patterns. Soldiers jumped from rooftops. Snipers shot from impossible angles. Explosions came from places no one expected. The Empire tried to adapt. They couldn't, because humans didn't play by any rules they understood. Victory. By nightfall, the battle was over. The Empire had lost. Their forces were scattered. Their leaders captured. Their weapons destroyed. The Free Stars had won. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. Rebel planets celebrated. Alien allies cheered. Even some Imperial soldiers whispered among themselves. Maybe we should have listened to them sooner. At the center of it all stood Logan, covered in dust, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, helmet cracked, but smiling. Danny walked up beside him. "Well?" Danny asked. Logan looked around. "We did it," Danny smirked. "Yeah, with duct tape and glitter." Maggie joined them. "They're gonna write songs about this, you know." Logan groaned. "Please no." She laughed. "They'll say we were crazy, that we shouldn't have won." Danny added. "But we did." Logan nodded. "Because we didn't care how we looked," Maggie finished. "Only that we worked, wearing the legacy of the stupid suit." Weeks later, peace talks began. The Empire had lost too much to keep fighting. New alliances formed. More species joined the Galactic Armor Exchange program, and everywhere the human way of thinking took root. Aliens started building gear that was practical, not just pretty. They added tools, lights, sensors, even snacks, and they stopped caring so much about looking perfect. Because they had learned the truth. Looks didn't matter. Results did. Final words. Back on Earth, Logan sat alone on a rooftop. He looked up at the stars. He knew the war was over, but the future was just beginning. He held his old helmet in his hands. Still blinking, still stupid looking, still perfect. He smiled. Then, he said almost to himself. We build stuff that doesn't look like it should work. He paused, because nobody expects it to. And somewhere far away, someone uploaded a video, title, The Most Ridiculous Armor Humans Ever Wore, and Why It Works. Views, millions. Likes, even more. Comments. They changed the galaxy. Still looks dumb, but now I want one. Thank you, humans. And somewhere in the corner of the internet, a new meme appeared. It showed Logan standing in front of a cheering crowd of aliens. Text, The Most Ridiculous Armor Humans Ever Wore, and Why It Works.